Man came back from the army and saw his wife eating grass. Her explanation left him speechless. Marcus Thompson walked down the dirt road that led to his house in the working-class neighborhood of Indianapolis, Indiana, carrying his military backpack. 2.5 years had passed since he left for a humanitarian mission in Alaska, and now he was finally returning to the arms of Martha, his beloved wife. But when he pushed open the worn wooden gate and stepped into the yard, the scene he found made his heart stop. Martha was crouched next to the small garden bed where her plants used to grow, pulling up tufts of grass with trembling hands and bringing them to her mouth, chewing desperately. Her tears fell onto the dry soil as she didn't even notice his arrival. "Martha!" Marcus shouted, dropping his backpack on the ground. She lifted her thin face, and when she saw him standing there in his camouflage uniform, she thought she was having a vision. Her eyes, once bright and full of life, were now sunken and dull. Her body, once full of curves, now looked like nothing but skin and bones. "Marcus," she whispered, still with bits of grass between her teeth. You came back?" Martha tried to get up quickly to run, ashamed of what her husband had just witnessed, but her weak legs betrayed her. Marcus ran to her and caught her before she fell. "My God, Martha! What happened to you? Why were you eating—" "Don't look at me like that," she cried, hiding her face in her hands. "I didn't want you to see me like this. I tried so hard to stay pretty for when you came back." Marcus held her tightly, feeling how drastically she had lost weight. He could feel her ribs through the old faded blouse she was wearing. "Tell me what happened. Where are our furniture? Where are your plants?" Martha broke down crying in her husband's arms. Between sobs, she began to tell a story that would leave Marcus in shock for days to come. "The company where I worked shut down 3 months after you left," she said, wiping her nose on her blouse sleeve. "I didn't want to tell you in the letters so you wouldn't worry. I thought I'd find another job quickly." Marcus led her inside the house and was even more shocked. The small living room was completely empty. There was no couch, no television, not even the table where they used to have meals together, only an old mat on the floor and a dented pot in the corner. "Martha, where are our things?" "I had to sell everything," she answered, unable to look him in the eyes. "First the television, then the couch. In the end, only the fridge was left, but it broke and I didn't have money to fix it." Marcus sat on the floor and pulled his wife close to him. His hands trembled as he stroked her hair, which used to be long and silky, now cut very short and dry. "But I sent money every month. $50 wasn't much, but it was enough for you to get by until I came back." Martha looked up with eyes red from crying. "What money, Marcus? I never received anything." The world came crashing down on Marcus in that moment. For 2.5 years, he had saved every cent he could from the small stipend he received, faithfully sending it home every month. In the letters he sent, he always asked if the money had arrived, and Martha would answer evasively, never confirming or denying. "What do you mean you never received it? I sent it through the military bank every single month." "Marcus, I swear to God I never saw a single cent. I went to the bank every week to ask, but they always told me there was nothing in my name." Marcus felt anger growing inside him, but he knew he needed to take care of Martha first. She was clearly very sick and malnourished. "You haven't eaten anything real today?" "Yesterday I managed to get a stale loaf of bread at the bakery," she answered quietly. "But my stomach can't handle regular food anymore. All I can eat is these leaves and herbs I find." "But that's not food, Martha. It's what my body can accept now. At first I threw up everything, even water. Then the neighbor, Mrs. Gladys, taught me about some plants that help." Marcus stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the backyard where there used to be a small flower garden that Martha cared for with so much love. Now all that was left were a few patches of grass and weeds. "Martha, why didn't you ask for help? Mrs. Gladys, the people at church, anyone?" "I did ask," she replied, wrapping herself in the only blanket she had left. "But every time someone offered food or money, I remembered your promise. You said you were going to take care of me when you came back, that we were going to rebuild our life together. I didn't want to accept help because I knew you were struggling too, trying to send me money." Marcus turned to her with tears in his eyes. "So you chose to go hungry rather than accept help? I knew you would come back. and I wanted that when you arrived you would see that I was strong, that I waited for you without depending on anyone." Marcus knelt in front of his wife and held her thin hands. "Martha, you're the strongest woman I know. But you almost killed yourself in the process." "I wasn't going to die, I learned to survive. Mrs. Gladys taught me which plants are safe, which ones have more nutrients. I became an expert at finding food in nature." Marcus's stomach turned, thinking about the suffering his wife had gone through while he thought he was sending money home. "Martha, you need to see a doctor right away." "I don't have money for a doctor, Marcus." "There's the public health clinic. I've been there several times. They gave me some medicine for stomach pain, but it didn't help. The nurse said I need to eat properly. But how can I eat properly when there's no food?" Marcus realized that Martha had fallen into a terrible cycle. She couldn't work because she was too weak, and she couldn't eat because she had no money to buy food. "And how were you surviving financially?" Martha hesitated before answering. I collected recyclables, cardboard, cans, things like that." "You worked as a waste picker?" "Just early in the morning, before the sun got too hot. In the afternoon I couldn't handle the heat. I made about $5 a week." Marcus did the math quickly in his head. $5 a week wasn't even enough to buy a pound of rice. "Martha, how did you pay the household bills?" "I didn't," she answered, ashamed. "The electricity was cut off 4 months ago. The water 6 months ago. I got water from Mrs. Gladys's house." Marcus looked around and realized there was indeed no electricity in the house. Throughout the entire conversation, the only light came from the evening sun filtering through the windows. "And the rent?" "I managed to talk to Mr. Arthur. I explained that my husband had gone to serve the country, and that when he came back we would pay everything. He was understanding." "How much rent do you owe?" 2 years and 3 months. Marcus did a quick calculation. It was a debt of over $1,000, an amount that seemed impossible to pay given the financial reality they were facing. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. "Martha, I need to understand better how you survived all this time. Tell me everything from the beginning." Martha settled herself more comfortably on the mat and began to recount the details of her journey of survival. "In the first month after you left, everything was still normal. I had my salary from the company, and I thought you'd send money soon. When the company shut down, I went looking for another job, but I couldn't find anything. The money we had saved lasted about 2 months. Marcus remembered his savings. They had managed to put together $300 before he left. When the money ran out, I started selling our things. The first thing was the television. I got $100 for it. $100, but it cost $500 when we bought it. I know, but I needed money urgently. With $100, I bought food for 2 weeks. Then I sold the stereo, the fan. Little by little, I sold everything." Marcus imagined Martha leaving the house carrying their belongings to sell for ridiculously low prices and felt a pain in his chest. "And the neighbors didn't offer help?" "They did. Mrs. Gladys always brought over a plate of food. Mr. George from the corner offered me work at his shop, but I wouldn't accept." "Why not?" "Because I didn't want anyone to know about our situation. You've always been so proud, Marcus. I didn't want you to come back and find out I had become the neighbor's charity case." Marcus understood Martha's concern, but at the same time, he felt frustrated with her stubbornness. "Martha, pride doesn't fill an empty stomach. But it keeps your dignity." And dignity was all I had left. Marcus realized his wife had spent the last 2 years fighting not just against hunger, but against the humiliation of having to depend on others. "And when did you start collecting recyclables?" "About 8 months ago. I was desperate, without enough money to even buy a loaf of bread. I saw an older woman picking up cans on the street and asked her how it worked." "What was the work like?" "I'd leave at 5 in the morning with a big bag. I'd go through the neighborhoods picking up whatever I found. Cardboard, plastic bottles, aluminum cans. At the end of the week, I'd take it to the depot and they'd weigh it. I'd get around $5 or $6 when I was lucky. Marcus imagined Martha walking through the empty streets at dawn, searching for recyclable trash to buy food, and felt like crying. "And when did you start eating plants?" "About 4 months ago. My stomach was so bad I couldn't keep anything down. I'd throw up even water. Mrs. Gladys took me to see a woman who knows about medicinal plants." "And she taught you?" "She taught me which ones are safe, which ones help the stomach, which ones have vitamins. She said the natives always knew how to live off the land and that anyone can learn." Marcus realized Martha had developed a primitive form of survival, almost as if she had gone back to ancestral times. "Martha, you can't keep going like this. Your body is destroyed. I know I'm skinny, but I'm alive. And now you're back, so everything is going to be fine." Marcus admired his wife's unshakable faith, but he knew the situation was far more serious than she wanted to admit. "Tomorrow first thing, we're going to the bank to find out what happened to the money I was sending." "Do you really think you sent it and it got lost?" "I'm sure of it. I kept every receipt. I brought them all with me." Marcus opened his backpack and took out a folder with several organized papers. They were bank transfer receipts, all addressed to Martha Thompson. "Look here. Every month, without fail." Martha took the papers with trembling hands and began to read. Her eyes filled with tears. "Marcus, you really sent all of this?" "Of course I did. It was my duty to take care of you, even from a distance." "But where did that money end up?" "That's what we're going to find out tomorrow." Martha hugged Marcus tightly. "I knew you hadn't abandoned me. Sometimes, in the hardest moments, I thought maybe you had found another woman up in Alaska and forgotten about me." "Martha, how could you even think something like that?" "I'm sorry, love. But when you're hungry, your mind thinks strange things." Marcus held Martha's face between his hands. "I spent 2.5 years counting the days to come back to you. There's no other woman in the world I love besides you." They stayed silent for a few minutes, just holding each other and trying to absorb the reality of being together again. "Marcus, I have something to tell you," Martha said softly. "What is it?" I think I'm pregnant." Marcus pulled her face back to see if he had heard correctly. "What do you mean, you think? It's been 2 months since my period came. At first I thought it was because of the weakness, but there are other signs." "What signs?" "Morning sickness. The smell of food makes me nauseous. My breasts are sore." Marcus stayed silent, processing the information. A baby would be a blessing, but in the current conditions, it would also be a huge challenge. "Have you taken any test?" "I don't have money to buy one." "Tomorrow we'll buy a test and go to the doctor." "And if it's true, Marcus, how are we going to raise a child without even having food?" "We'll figure it out. Now that I'm back, things are going to change." Martha nestled into Marcus's arms, and for the first time in months she felt safe. "I prayed so much that you'd come back before the baby was born. And your dreams came true. I'm here now." They spent the night talking, with Marcus trying to understand all the details of the suffering Martha had gone through, and her wanting to know about his experiences in Alaska. "Marcus, how was it out there on the mission?" "It was hard, but necessary. We helped river communities that had no access to anything. Doctors, schools, basic sanitation. It was like going back in time 100 years. Did you miss me?" "Every single day. Sometimes I'd stare at the stars and think about you. I'd imagine how you were, what you were doing. If you only knew, if I had known, I'd have found a way to come back earlier or to send more money." "Would your commander have let you?" "I don't know, but I would have tried." The next morning, Marcus woke up early and went out to take care of the bureaucratic loose ends. Martha stayed home, still too weak to go with him. His first stop was the bank, where he had sent the transfers. At the branch, he asked to speak with the manager. "Good morning, I'm Marcus Thompson. I need to clear up a situation with transfers I made to my wife." The manager, a middle-aged man named Stephen, received him in his office. "What's the problem, Mr. Thompson?" Marcus explained the whole situation and showed the receipts. The manager checked the system and after a few minutes turned pale. "Mr. Thompson, unfortunately I have some very bad news to give you." "What news?" "The money you sent never reached your wife's account. because there was an error in the system. The transfers went to an account with a similar number, but not identical. Marcus felt his blood boil. What do you mean, an error in the system? You sent my money to the wrong person for 2 years? It seems so. Let me check if we can trace where it went. After an hour of investigation, the manager came back with more information. Mr. Thompson, we discovered that an employee at this branch had been diverting transfers from military families for over a year. He changed the account numbers in the system so the money would go to accounts he controlled. And where is that employee now? He was fired and is being prosecuted, but the money has already been spent. He used it to pay off gambling debts. Marcus had to restrain himself to keep from attacking the manager. Do you have any idea what my wife went through because of this? Mr. Thompson, I understand your anger. The bank is aware of the problem, and we are taking all legal measures. Legal measures aren't going to give back 2 years of my wife's suffering. I know, sir, but the bank is willing to financially compensate for the losses. How? We can return the full amount that was diverted, with adjustments and interest, and will also offer compensation for emotional distress. Marcus did a quick calculation. If he received all the money back with interest, he'd have enough to pay off the debts and start a new life with Martha. How long will it take? About 15 days to get all the paperwork in order. And in the meantime, my wife doesn't even have anything to eat today. The manager opened the drawer of his desk and took out $300 of his own money. Take this as an advance. It's from my own pocket. When the compensation comes through, we'll deduct it. Marcus hesitated, but thinking of Martha, he accepted the money. Thank you. But that doesn't erase the suffering you caused. I know, Mr. Marcus, and I apologize on behalf of the bank. Marcus went home with food and medicine. When he arrived, he found Martha talking with Mrs. Gladys, the elderly neighbor. Martha, Marcus, Mrs. Gladys said when she saw him. What a joy to know you're back. Martha suffered so much while you were gone. Did you know she was going hungry? I did. I offered help several times, but she never accepted, stubborn as a mule. She said she was going to wait for you to come back. Marcus looked at Martha with a mixture of love and exasperation. Mrs. Gladys, I brought food. Would you like to have lunch with us? I'd love to, dear. I'll make a really tasty meal to build Martha's strength up. While Mrs. Gladys cooked, Marcus told Martha what he'd discovered at the bank. So you really were sending money and someone stole it? Exactly, and the bank is going to compensate us. How long will it take? About 15 days. But I already brought money so we can start getting back on our feet. Martha cried tears of relief. I knew you hadn't abandoned me. I knew there had to be an explanation. Martha, you went through all of this for nothing. If you'd just accepted help from the neighbors. I couldn't, Marcus. My pride wouldn't let me. Pride is one thing, stubbornness is another. Mrs. Gladys came back from the kitchen with a plate of rice, beans, and stewed chicken. Martha, eat slowly. Your stomach is sensitive. Martha ate small portions, chewing slowly. Marcus noticed she really did have difficulty swallowing solid food. Martha, we're going to the doctor this afternoon. There's no need, Marcus. Now that you're back, I'll get better. Yes, there is. You're very thin, and you might be pregnant. Mrs. Gladys perked up at that information. Pregnant? How wonderful. But you have to take good care of your diet. In the afternoon, Marcus took Martha to the public health clinic. The doctor who saw her was shocked by her physical condition. Mrs. Martha, you have severe malnutrition. How long has it been since you've eaten properly? About 6 months, doctor. And why didn't you seek medical help before? I did, but they always just told me to eat properly. How was I supposed to eat properly when I had no food? The doctor looked at Marcus. Sir, your wife needs urgent nutritional care. Her body is far too weakened. Doctor, she thinks she might be pregnant. Let's run the tests, but if it's true, it will be a high-risk pregnancy. After the tests, the doctor confirmed the pregnancy. Congratulations, you're going to be parents. But Mrs. Martha, you need to take very good care of yourself. The baby is developing in a very weak body. What do I need to do, doctor? Eat small portions several times a day, take vitamins, get plenty of rest, and weekly medical checkups. When they left the clinic, Marcus hugged Martha on the street. "We're going to have a child." "I'm scared, Marcus. What if I can't take good care of the baby?" "You will. You're not alone anymore." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and leave a like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. In the following weeks, Marcus dedicated himself entirely to taking care of Martha and reorganizing their lives. With the money from the bank, he paid the overdue bills and bought basic furniture for the house. But Marcus discovered that finding work as a veteran would not be easy. Many companies discriminated against those who had served, thinking they were troublemakers or violent. "Martha, it's hard to find work. Hard to—" "Calm down, Marcus. Something will come up. But the money from the bank won't last forever. I need to find a source of income." Marcus started working as a street vendor, selling water and soda at the traffic light. It wasn't what he had dreamed of, but it was honest work. "Marcus, you don't have to humiliate yourself like that," said Martha when she saw him arriving home sweaty and tired. "It's not humiliation, it's survival, and it's temporary." One day, while selling at the traffic light, Marcus was approached by a well-dressed man. "Are you Marcus Thompson?" "Yes, I am. Why?" "My name is David Sterling. I heard about your story through a friend who works at the bank. Can I talk to you?" Marcus was suspicious, but he agreed to talk. "I own a security company. I'm looking for honest and responsible veterans to work with me." "What kind of work?" "Property security, escorts, surveillance. Nothing illegal or dangerous. Serious companies that need qualified professionals. And the salary, $2,000 to start plus benefits." Marcus couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Why are you offering me this?" "Because I know you're a man of character. Someone who religiously sends money to his wife for 2 years, even while being far away, is someone I can trust." Marcus accepted the offer and started working at David's company the following week. For the first time in a long time, he felt that things were getting better. With the steady salary, Marcus managed to rent a better house for him and Martha. It wasn't a palace, but it had 2 bedrooms, a spacious kitchen, and a backyard where Martha could plant her herbs and seasonings. "Marcus, this house is a dream," said Martha, still impressed by the change. "It's our new beginning, love. Here our child will be born in a dignified environment." Martha, with regular medical care and proper nutrition, began to regain weight and health. Her belly grew week by week, and Marcus got emotional every time he felt the baby move. "Marcus, have you picked a name?" "If it's a girl, how about Faith, for everything we've been through?" "And if it's a boy?" "Wyatt, because he will be the symbol of our victory over difficulties." One day Marcus received an unexpected call. It was from the commander of his former military unit. "Marcus, how are you?" "I'm well, Commander. And you, sir?" "I'm calling because the problem you and your wife faced with the bank came to my attention. I wanted to apologize on behalf of the armed forces." "Commander, you're not to blame for what happened. But I have a responsibility for the well-being of our men's families. That's why I'm offering additional compensation." "What kind of compensation?" "A house of your own through the military housing program. You're entitled to it, and I'll speed up the process." Marcus was speechless. "Commander, is this for real?" "Completely serious. Within 6 months, you'll have the keys to your own house." When Marcus told Martha, she cried with emotion. "Marcus, am I dreaming?" "If you are, I hope I never wake up." During the pregnancy, Martha developed a new passion, cooking. Since she had spent so much time without being able to eat properly, she now dedicated herself to preparing tasty and nutritious meals. "Marcus, try this new recipe." "What is it?" "Leafy green soup. But not the leaves I used to eat when I was hungry. These are real greens: kale, spinach, arugula." Marcus tried it and was surprised by the flavor. "It's delicious. Where did you learn that?" "With Mrs. Gladys. She taught me several recipes with greens and vegetables. She said I'll be a better mother if I know how to cook well." Marcus noticed that Martha was turning her traumatic experience into something positive. The knowledge about plants she had acquired out of necessity was now becoming a culinary skill. "Martha, have you thought about teaching cooking classes?" "Cooking classes? Me?" "Why not? You know plants and vegetables like no one else. You could teach healthy, inexpensive recipes. The idea planted a seed in Martha's mind. She started researching the subject and discovered there was a huge demand for classes on natural, budget-friendly cooking. Marcus, I talked to the coordinator at the community center. She loved the idea of the classes. And what would it be like? Once a week in the afternoon, for mothers who want to learn to cook without spending much, they would pay $50 per class. Martha, that's great. Some extra income would be very welcome. Martha started teaching the classes when she was 7 months pregnant. To her surprise, the demand was enormous. In no time, she had a waiting list of interested women. Marcus, I never imagined that the worst phase of my life could turn into something so positive. What do you mean? If I hadn't gone hungry, I never would have learned about plants and natural eating. Now, I'm teaching other women and even making money from it. Marcus admired his wife's wisdom. She had managed to turn trauma into opportunity. One day while teaching at the community center, Martha was approached by a local journalist. Hi, Martha. My name is Sarah Jane. I'm a reporter for the local newspaper. Can I talk to you? Sure, about what? I heard about your story through some of your students. I'd like to do a piece on overcoming adversity and women's entrepreneurship. Martha hesitated. She didn't want her private life to become news. I don't know. It's a very personal story. I understand. But think about how your experience could inspire other women who are going through hard times. Martha talked to Marcus about the proposal. What do you think? I think it could be good. If your story helps other people, it's worth it. The article was published a week later with the headline, From Waste Picker to Entrepreneur, Woman Turns Trauma into Successful Business. The impact was immediate. Martha received dozens of calls from women wanting to learn from her. She also received offers to teach in other neighborhoods and even in other cities. Marcus, it seems I've become a minor celebrity. You deserve all the recognition, love. Your strength is inspiring. With the success of the classes, Martha decided to write a cookbook of economical and nutritious recipes. Marcus helped her with the organization and typing. Martha, what will you call the book? Kitchen Survival: How to Eat Well on a Budget. I like the title. It's straightforward and explains exactly what the book offers. When Martha was 8 months pregnant, they finally received the keys to their own home. It was a simple house, but new and in a safe neighborhood. Marcus, I still can't believe this house is ours. Believe it, and our son will grow up here, never going without. They moved the following week. Martha insisted on planting a vegetable garden in the backyard of the new house. Why a vegetable garden, Martha? We don't need one anymore. Exactly for that reason. I want to plant for pleasure, not out of necessity, and I want to teach our son where food comes from. Marcus helped Martha plant lettuce, tomatoes, onions, and various herbs. It was comforting to see that the garden was now a symbol of abundance, not of desperation. Marcus, sometimes I wonder if everything we went through was necessary. What do you mean? If I hadn't gone through those hardships, would I have discovered my calling to teach? Would you have met David and gotten this good job? Marcus reflected on the question. I don't know, love. But I do know that our story proves it's possible to overcome any difficulty when you have love and determination. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and leave a like, and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. At the end of the 8th month of pregnancy, Martha began to feel contractions. Marcus rushed her to the hospital. Doctor, is she okay? Isn't it too early? It's a little early, but it's not premature. The baby has normal weight and development. After 12 hours of labor, Wyatt Thompson was born, a healthy boy weighing 7 pounds. Marcus, look at our son, Martha said, exhausted but radiant. Marcus held the baby for the first time and cried with emotion. He's perfect, Martha. Our little Victor. Now I understand why I went through all of that. It was to reach this moment. Marcus agreed. Holding his son in his arms, he felt that all the pain and suffering of the past few years had been worth it. In the following months, Marcus and Martha devoted themselves entirely to caring for Wyatt. Martha had to pause her classes temporarily, but she kept writing her cookbook. Marcus, I finished the book. Really, how many recipes did you end up with? 200 recipes, all tested and approved by my students. So what now? Now we find a publisher to get it published. Marcus helped Martha send the manuscript to several publishers. After 2 months they received a positive response. Martha, a letter arrived from Sunrise Publishing. What did they say? Marcus opened the letter and read it aloud. Dear Mrs. Martha, after reviewing your manuscript Survival in the Kitchen, we are pleased to inform you that we would like to publish your book. We believe it will fill an important gap in the publishing market. Martha screamed with joy, waking little Wyatt. Marcus, I'm going to be a published author. You deserve it, love. Your knowledge can help thousands of families. The book was released 6 months later and received surprising reception. Before long, Martha was giving interviews on local radio and television programs. Martha, how does it feel to be recognized nationally? It's surreal. 2 years ago, I was eating grass in my own backyard. Today, I'm here talking to thousands of people on television. What's your message to women who are going through hard times? Never give up. Accept help when you need it. And remember that every experience, no matter how painful, can turn into learning and opportunity. The book's success brought unexpected consequences. Martha started receiving invitations to give lectures in other cities and even proposals to franchise her cooking classes. Marcus, what do you think about expanding the classes? I think it's great. The more women you help, the better. But I'm afraid of growing too fast and losing control. Then let's take it slow. Sustainable growth. Martha decided to train other instructors to replicate her method in different neighborhoods. Within a year, she had 20 women working with her in 10 different locations. Marcus, look at what we've built. No, love. Look at what you built. I just supported you. We built it together. If you hadn't come back and given me strength, I never would have made it. Marcus realized that his wife had become a successful businesswoman, but without losing the humility and simplicity that had always defined her. One day, Marcus came home from work and found Martha crying in the living room. What happened? I got a call today. From who? From the bank employee who embezzled our money. He's in prison and wanted to apologize. Marcus tensed up. And what did you say? That he forgave her. He forgave her. Martha, he nearly starved you to death. I know, Marcus, but holding a grudge would only hurt me. I'd rather use that energy to help other people. Marcus once again admired the greatness of his wife's spirit. She had turned pain into growth, resentment into forgiveness. What else did he say? That his time in prison made him reflect on the harm he caused to families, and that when he gets out, he wants to work helping people in financial difficulty. Do you believe him? I don't know. But I believe in people's ability to change when they truly want to. 2 years after Wyatt's birth, Marcus received an unexpected offer from David. Marcus, you know the security business well by now. What do you say we become partners? Partners how? You'd come in as a minority partner in the company, 20% stake. David, I don't have money to invest. You don't need to invest money. Your investment would be your experience and dedication. You've practically been running the company with me for 2 years. Marcus talked to Martha about the offer. What do you think? I think you deserve this opportunity. You've always been very competent and honest. But what if it goes wrong? And what if it goes right? Sometimes you have to take a risk to grow. Marcus accepted the partnership and discovered he had a talent for management. Before long, the company grew by 50%. David, our partnership is working out really well. I knew it would. You have something money can't buy, character. With their business success, Marcus and Martha decided to have another child. Martha got pregnant easily, and this time the pregnancy was smooth from the start. Marcus, this time, I want it to be a girl. Why? To complete our family. One of each. And what if it's another boy? I'll love him just the same. But I dream of a little girl to wear the dresses I've knitted. During her second pregnancy, Martha wrote her second book, Motherhood and Work, How to Balance Career and Family. Martha, You're becoming a prolific writer. I have a lot of accumulated experience to share, and writing makes me feel good. What's the next book going to be? I want to write about our story, from the very beginning, when you left for your mission, all the way to now. An autobiographical book? Yes, to show that it's possible to overcome any hardship. 9 months later, Faith Thompson was born, a healthy and beautiful little girl. Marcus, our family is complete now. Perfect. A boy and a girl, both healthy and happy. And to think that a few years ago, I thought I'd never be a mother. Why did you think that? Because I was so weak and sick that I thought my body would never recover. Marcus looked at his 2 children playing in the yard of their own home and felt immense gratitude. Martha, sometimes I think about what we'd be like if none of that had happened. What do you mean? If I had received the money normally, if you hadn't gone hungry, if we'd had a normal life. And what do you conclude? That we'd probably be more comfortable. Maybe you never would have discovered your talent for teaching. Maybe I never would have become a businessman. Martha reflected on her husband's words. You're right. The hardships forced us to find strength we didn't even know we had, and they made us better people, stronger and more grateful for everything we have. Marcus embraced Martha as they watched their children play. Martha, do you regret marrying me? Why do you ask that? Because of me you went through so much suffering. Marcus Thompson, you listened to me good. I would go through it all again if I knew I'd find you at the end. My love for you is what kept me alive through the hardest times, and I love you more than anything in this life. And our children will grow up knowing that true love overcomes any obstacle. Marcus remembered a thought he'd had during his mission in Alaska. Love is like a plant. It can go through storms, droughts, and pests, but if the root is strong, it always blooms again. Martha, our root was strong, and our fruits are right here, she said, pointing to Wyatt and Faith. 5 years later, Marcus and Martha were running a network of 40 budget cooking schools across the Midwest. Martha had become a national reference in healthy, affordable cooking. Marcus, sometimes I can't believe what we've built. It's the fruit of your hard work and dedication. Of our hard work. You always supported me in everything. Marcus smiled, remembering the skeletal woman he'd found eating grass in the backyard. Now Martha was a respected businesswoman, a fulfilled mother, and a happy wife. Martha, do you remember that day I came back from the mission? How could I forget? The most shameful day of my life. For me, it was the day I discovered I'd married the strongest woman in the world. That wasn't strength, Marcus. That was desperation. No, it was strength. Anyone else would have given up, asked for help, or worse. You held on because you had an inner strength you didn't even know you had. Martha hugged her husband. And you? You showed incredible strength too. Few men would have the patience to rebuild a life from scratch. I did it out of love. And because you deserved it. Their children, now 7 and 5, ran over to their parents. Dad, Mom, can we plant more vegetables in the garden? Asked Wyatt. Of course, sweetheart. But why do you want to plant more? So Mum can teach more recipes to the other mums, Faith answered. Marcus and Martha looked at each other and smiled. Their children had inherited their spirit of solidarity and their desire to help others. Yes, let's do it, my loves. Let's plant and take care of it together, said Martha. As they walked to the garden, Marcus reflected on the journey they had taken. From a backyard where his wife ate grass out of desperation, they had arrived at an abundant garden where they planted out of love and solidarity. The grass that once represented hunger and humiliation now gave way to vegetables and herbs that fed not only their family, but hundreds of other families through Martha's teachings. Marcus, said Martha, kneeling in the soft soil of the garden, I still remember the bitter taste of that grass I ate. And how do you feel about that now? Grateful. If I hadn't tasted need, I never would have learned to savor abundance. Marcus knelt beside his wife and held her soil-stained hand. Martha, you turned our tragedy into the greatest blessing of our lives. We turned it, Marcus. Together. The two planted side by side, with their children helping. It was a perfect symbol of how they had built a new life, with hard work, love, patience, and faith in the future. When the sun began to set, they sat on the porch of the house, watching the garden they had planted, and the children playing in the yard. Marcus, there's something I never told you. What is it? In those hardest days when I ate grass to survive, I used to talk to you. What do you mean? I pretended you were there with me. I'd say, Marcus, look at the situation we're in. But you'll be back soon, and we'll get through this together. Marcus felt his eyes fill with tears. And I, out there in Alaska, talked to you every night before going to sleep too. What did you tell me? That I was doing important work, but that my heart was at home, and that one day I'd come back so we could build a better life. And we did. We did so much more than I ever dreamed. Martha rested her head on Marcus's shoulder. You know what I learned from all this? What? That true love isn't just the love of happy moments. It's mainly the love that endures through the hardest times. And ours held up. More than held up. It grew stronger. Marcus hugged Martha and felt that his life was complete. They had a beautiful family, a thriving business, a home of their own, and more important than anything, a love that had overcome every hardship. Martha, what would you say to a woman going through today what you went through? I'd tell her to never give up, to accept help when she needs it, that every storm passes, and that sometimes we have to hit rock bottom to discover our true strength. And what about pride? Pride that leaves you hungry isn't pride, it's stubbornness. True pride is overcoming your own difficulties and helping others overcome theirs too. Marcus smiled, admiring the wisdom his wife had gained through suffering. And you, Marcus, what would you say to a man in your situation? That what matters most isn't how much you earn or how much you can provide for your family. What matters most is being there, giving emotional support, and never giving up on the people you love, even when the situation seems impossible. Especially when it seems impossible, that's when true love reveals itself. End of story. And you, dear listener, what did you think of this story of overcoming hardship and love? Martha and Marcus proved that even in the most desperate situations, it's possible to find the strength to start over. Leave your opinion in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories of overcoming adversity.